I spent most of my life knowing who God was, but I didn't meet Jesus until I was 40. I was about 10 years old when I noticed something was different about our family, that alcohol was a really big part of it. I started drinking and smoking pot when I was about 12 years old. It was all I had seen. You name it. I was trying to fill my life with anything because there was just so much emptiness there that I never really got rid of. I met a guy who was about 10 years older than me, and I ended up getting pregnant. And I went in on Valentine's Day and ended up having an abortion. And it was probably one of the most frightening, awful experiences of my life. I ended up meeting a guy who I thought I was in love with, and I ended up getting pregnant again. We ended up getting married, and it was awful from the start. It was awful from the start. The marriage lasted about 2 years, and then we split. I ended up going through 2 more marriages. I felt like I was just trying to fill my life with something. That empty hole that I had when I was little, I was trying to fill with whatever I could. So marriage to me just seemed like the natural answer. I was 25, and I remember my dad coming to me. He had just recommitted his life to Christ. He came to me one day with a Bible in his hands, and he said, "You know what, Melanie? I really don't want to go to heaven and know that I'm not going to see you there." I remember just being so mad. I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I threw that Bible down, and I don't think I picked it up again for another 10 years. On November 18th, 2008, my dad passed away of a massive heart attack. We had found out a month before that my mom had cancer. And by this time, marriage number 3 had ended. Everything fell apart. I remember hitting my knees and just saying, "God, you know what? If you're real, I really need you right now." I remember saying, "You know what? Jesus, my life is yours because I've made a mess of everything that you gave me. And I've burned my life into the ground. But you know what? I read in your Bible that you can make beauty from ashes." And so that's exactly what he did. He took all of that mess and all of that awful stuff and started to turn that around for me. And the awesome thing was I started praying for my mom. I started praying that, well, first that she would stop drinking. But second, I started praying that God would change my heart towards her. So I think I started seeing it more from her perspective and realizing that I could love her even if things didn't change. Even if she was still drinking, I could still love her for who she was. It's been almost 2 years now, 2.5 years, since my mom stopped drinking. And that is a miracle of God in and of itself. She stepped up and she recommitted her life to Christ, and God healed her and has been sober now and working incredible things in her life. So through all of this, I now have an amazing relationship with my mom. I have an amazing, godly man who loves me more than anything and loves my children that aren't his, but that he stepped up and has taken into his own life and said, "I'm going to raise these kids as my own." Probably the best thing that I have is that I get to go home to heaven and see my dad, and he doesn't have to wonder whether or not I'm going to be there next to him, because he never, throughout all the time that he was committed and I was walking away, he was loving Jesus and he was loving me, and I was walking away from him, and he had to watch his child do all of these horrible things, these self-destructive things. He died without ever knowing that that was going to change. know that there are so many people out there who have to watch their children go through awful things, or have to watch a spouse go through awful things, or have to watch a friend go through awful things. But those little seeds that you plant, those words that you share today, that love that you extend to somebody else doesn't return void. And the amazing thing is that looking back on it now, I can see that God was walking with me all along. That there were times when I felt really, really alone. There were times when I didn't think anybody cared. But I look back on it and I see Him always being there for me, either in the face of a friend trying to share God with me, or my dad showing me what God's love. God was there all along in those people that I met along the way. And those seeds that were planted grew into something amazing that's called this beautiful life that I have right now. And I'm so thankful for it.